Hi everybody, this is Brent Barge, and this is my screencast for Module 2 Theory for our second module here. So for this activity, one of the things we were asked to do was align it to a standard, and I decided to lead off with that here. So as I went through the activity, I decided that I really wanted to look at the environmental and ecology standards for Pennsylvania because I had never really taken a look at them. And I saw that this lesson would be applicable in a couple different places, but the one that really stuck out to me was this standard from 10th grade, which would be to examine the interactions between abiotic and biotic factors within a watershed, and specifically the substandard that talked about describing how vegetation affects water runoff. And I really focused on this standard because although this is kind of a very elementary activity, the way that it was presented to us in the module, it definitely can stem to a lot of bigger conversations. And when I did this activity, I started thinking about, well, which areas of my yard, what parts of my yard, for me personally, kind of hold the water the best or deal with the water the best. So I thought that'd be a really cool way to tie this into a project for kids at a school to do, maybe to help design some of the landscape around their school, which is why I ultimately ended up with this standard. So going through the process, the first step was to ask. And for me, when I read all about this task, I looked at the simulation that was provided in the module, and I needed to do some research myself. And specifically, I needed to understand more about the difference between runoff and infiltration. So I found this from the USGS website that said runoff is the amount of water that appears in an uncontrolled surface stream, rivers, drains, or sewers, and infiltration is rainfall that's absorbed into the ground. So that really helped me to understand these concepts a little bit more. And I wanted to know, well, why is this really important that we look at runoff and infiltration? So I found these, again, from the same website, that things that impact how much runoff there is are things like type, intensity, duration of precipitation, and specifically that land use, vegetation, and soil type. And then why is it important that we talk about runoff, or we talk about the pollutants that it picks up and harms plants, animals, people, and then carry that into our oceans and bodies of water that we really need to be aware of. So step 2 was imagine. And that was, well, I can imagine testing different types of ground covers in my yard to help understand how I should design my yard. I used the erosion bottles plan that was given to us in the module. Here's my erosion bottles that I created. So I used 3 different. On the left is a layer of soil covered with mulch that I had actually just bought and put in my yard the night that I did this activity. The middle is a chunk of grass that I took from my yard with soil underneath. On the right side is soil just directly, again, from my ground that I had actually just dug up as I was putting some flower beds in over the weekend. So this is all very relevant to actually the landscaping I'm doing right now. Here's some quick videos of me actually doing the trials. On the left is the mulch, in the middle is the grass, and on the right is the soil. And you can just kind of see the different colors of the water as they're coming out there. I thought it was cool to see the comparisons between them and how my predictions were a little bit different. And then here are the ends. You can see that the grass obviously held it the best with the activity that was provided in the module talked about how the roots really soak that up. And the mulch really now could be owing to the fact that it's fresh mulch, but really put out a lot more sediment into that water, and the soil was kind of the same as well. And as it sat for a couple days, I actually noticed that the soil cleared out a little bit. So if I were to improve this next time, I think I would talk about mulch specifically, and I would want to look at that and do different types and different thickness layers of mulch affect the runoff to really help me understand how my flower beds are working with my overall runoff and infiltration in my yard. So my STEM connections here, this one for me was really about asking and questions, defining problems, using those models, and carrying out the investigations. Technology was the hardest one, but for me, it started at the very beginning when I looked at those simulations that were provided in the module. So that is my screencast for Module 2 practice.